I cheated on my wife for 2 years with a man who catfished me online.
Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started.
I cheated on my wife for 2 years with a man who catfished me online. I had an affair with a cross dressing man for 2 years and never got caught. Throw away for obvious reasons. Okay, so this is going to be a whirlwind, so stick with me, please. I have been married for 15 years and have two daughters. Even after everything that I did and went through, I very much consider myself a straight man. In 2012, I used to go on an Omegle a lot. Omegle was the website where you randomly connect to another person with a webcam or chat and talk. I became obsessed with it. It started about every innocent at first. I saw some funny YouTube videos from people on the site and got a little drunk one night, so I got on. I chatted with a few people here and there. Nothing really funny or exciting at all, in the slightest. Then one little interaction turned into me going on nightly. Mostly just to chat, but then I found a lot of excitement in talking to other women on there. I did this for around a week straight. Late one night, I was talking to this girl on webcam, and it ended up being like 45-minute conversation. I never had anywhere even close to that long of conversation with someone on there before. We hit it off very fast. She wasn't speaking on camera, but could hear me talking and typing her replies in chat for me to see. Nothing unusual about that on there. Didn't think anything of it. During the last 15 minutes of the chat, things randomly got sexual. I went with it. On the cam, I could only see her shirt. She was sitting in a chair and had a camera very close up to her body, so I couldn't see face or anything like that. She had longer red hair and a very fit figure. She said she was 20 years old and wanted to do something adventurous for her 21st birthday the next month. I said she would be crazy and get her nipples pierced. She laughed and said that her boobs weren't big enough to pull it off. I disagreed, which led into her flashing me and then me getting turned on. It escalated in 10 seconds, it felt like. At the very end of the chat, she asked if I had a Snapchat. I sent her a request and went to bed. When I woke up, I had a snap on my phone from her that literally just said, "Hey," and that began talking on Snapchat all day and night. Just getting to know each other and chatting. After having the experience the night before and then talking to her for 10 hours straight the next day, I was dying to see her face. She was very reluctant to the entire idea, but I begged her. Finally, after 2 hours of doing nothing but discussing her showing me her face and how she's self conscious, she said, "Please don't delete me." I figured she just really thought she was ugly. She finally showed me her face. I was nauseous. I absolutely wasn't expecting what the face looked like. It was an older man, older than me, with scarfy beard and glasses. I was extremely pissed off. I felt disgusting and I felt really stupid. I always heard about catfishing and stuff, but this was the extreme of that I felt like. I sent back a very long message to him, telling him how much of a piece of a shit he is for doing that to me. He started to beg for me to call him on his cell phone so he could explain. I am an absolute moron and took him up on that offer. I called him and started to scream at him. He was crying and started to tell me how he was just lonely and the only way people would stop and talk to him was if he pretended to be a girl online. I didn't want to hear a sub story. I was questioning my sexuality for the first time in my life, and I was so pissed off that I was strict like that. He told me that the girl was his personality and everything he was telling me was the truth. He begged for me to just be his friend. I told him absolutely not and hung up. 3 weeks went by and I get a random text message from his number. "Hey man, hope you're doing well." I was hiding all of this from my wife and I couldn't talk to anyone about it. The last thing I wanted was for him to be hitting me up. I was much more calmed down this far after it happened and we had an all over normal conversation. He was honest and I started to open up to him by end of the day. It was getting late, so I told him that I may message him later in the week. And I did. After a few days went by and I hit him up, started chatting normally with him, everything was fine. I traveled for business and mentioned one night how I was going to Milwaukee for a business trip the next week. He told me he lived an hour and a half away from there and would be loved to hang out. I immediately started to back off and figured I would just block him and walk away from all of this. A few hours after not replying, he sent me a text of a bar downtown that he's been to a few times and wanted to see if I would meet him there when I went. I figured that it would be a way of foreclosure on all of this, and it wasn't public, so I said okay. We set everything up. I went to the bar, and sure enough, he was waiting for me. He was wearing normal clothes and actually had to walk up and tell me it was him after looking around for him and unknowingly looking at him multiple times. It was extremely awkward, and I had no idea how I should feel. I figured he would sit down with me and immediately start talking about everything going on with us the last few weeks. Not a single thing. My guard went down after a little bit, and we stayed at the bar for 2 hours, drinking, laughing, telling stories, and just getting to know each other in an innocent and conversational way. After a little while, he invited me back to his hotel room because he had a headache. I was comfortable with him by this point and agreed. We made it back to the hotel, and the second the door shut, we started making out. We couldn't take our hands off of each other. I did things I've never done in my life. I never fantasized being with another man before. I thought it would be extremely difficult, but I was very into it. I spent the night with him. In the morning, I said my goodbye to him and went back to my hotel and tried to finish the business trip out like nothing was wrong and like nothing happened. I got home and couldn't even look at my wife for longer than 1 minute without wanting to crawl in a hole and hide forever until all this went away. She immediately picked up on something, and I just told her it was a rough business trip with challenging clients. All I could think about was him. Milwaukee is a place I would go a few times for business trips because of my job. Everything carried on with him for a year. Texting all day, calling, video chats, picture exchanges as him dressed up, everything. I hid everything from my wife on my business phone while our relationship slowly started to crumble right along with our sex life. I had a daughter when me and him met. During the first year of me cheating with him, my wife got pregnant with my second daughter. I wanted our marriage and my family, but this secret side of my life that I was living was addictive. I just couldn't give it up, not easily at least. When my second daughter was born, I walked away from all this for a while. I focused on her and my wife and firstborn. I was so happy and everything was going as normal. I had a relationship with this man and had to call and tell him that I was walking away from it, all to focus on my family. He very easily understood my decision after a long talk one night. He said goodbye and went our ways mutually. 2 years after I originally met him in Omegle, I found out that 6 months later I was going to Milwaukee. I called him and told him, and we made plans for just a one last time type of thing. He was there, and we spent multiple nights together, making love, talking. I even was talking about my newborn daughter, and he was interested and excited to hear about everything. It was so odd, but I loved every single second. We knew it was the last time. It felt different, and I knew I had to get out of this long string of lies and major backstepping to clean up my tracks. After a few nights, he thought it would be romantic to go back to the bar we met and drink for a few hours for old time's sake. I never once thought my life would cross paths with someone like this and go to this extreme. But sharing that one last beer together, just like the first one we shared, was a very heartwarming thing for us both, and we thought it was the perfect way to say bye. After a few hours at the bar, we walked outside, hugged like two old friends, and he said that thank you and that he loved me. I said the same back and walked away. I wrote him a very long letter and gave it to him before I left the bar to read later. It was pages and pages of what he meant to me, but how my life wasn't set up for the life and my true life is where my heart is, with my family. I asked him on the last page to do me a favor. I asked for him to text me down the line if he ever found someone else. I cared for him and I knew that I had someone to go back to, but he didn't. He was much older and it worried me greatly. In 2017, we last spoke in 2014. I get a random text message on my phone from a number I have never seen. It simply just said hello from Vegas with a picture attached. The picture was him in a wedding dress and another man in a tuxedo. I broke down and absolute tears. Of course, I thought about him weekly, but never thought I would ever hear from him again in my life. To have that message come out of absolutely nowhere shocked me and made me so happy. He was almost 6 years old and he was a closet homosexual his entire life. He went online to play out his fantasies, and I somehow got included in that. To know that my life with my family has never been better, and knowing that he found who he needed to find, made this odd acquaintance turn into one of the most important people I've ever met. Since then, I decided to go to couples therapy with my wife to clear up any sort of side issues we've had. I would never in my life discuss this with her, but I promised myself to never put myself in a situation like that again and poured all of my attention into my family full force. Absolutely everything is perfect in our life, and I am so glad that my dear friend can say the same. And for the record, that was the last time we ever spoke, and all I said was congratulations. So proud of you and your new life. Later that week, I changed my number and cleared up any ways for him to contact me again. But I'm sure he's somewhere right now on the Las Vegas trip talking about how beautiful Milwaukee is to all his new friends and family.